Okay, so here's quiz number 12, question 2. The base of a triangle is 8 more than twice its height. If the area is 41, find its base and height. Okay, so the area formula for a triangle is a half base times height. That's because a triangle, think about a rectangle is like that. A triangle is half of a rectangle. So base and height, it's a half of base times height. So you need to have this formula on your 3x5 card for the next exam. Area of a triangle. This is a triangle. It's half base times height, okay? It tells us the area is 41. So 41 is a half base times height. And then it says the base, B, is equals 8 more than twice the height. So that's the base. So that right there goes in for B. So this equation becomes 41 is a half. I'm going to put the H in the front. And then the B, and what's the B? What's the base? 8 plus 2H. So this is the B. This took the place of the B. I just moved the H to the front. Doesn't matter what order they're in. Okay, so there's our equation. We need to solve that for H. Now the first thing you need to do is get rid of that half. So this is area, 41, is a half times base. This is all the base, right? Because the base is 8 plus 2H, 8 more than twice height, times the height. So there's the formula. Area is a half base times height. Okay, now to solve that equation for H, first thing to do is multiply by 2. Multiply by 2. Why? To cancel out that fraction, because we don't want fractions. You don't need to put that 2 in here or in here. Why not? Well, because there's parentheses, and so whenever you do something to the item in front of parentheses, it'll eventually distribute in. You've really done it to everything. So what do you get? 2 times 41, that's 82. The 2 and the half here cancel, and just have H times 8 plus 2H, distribute that. 82 is, that's going to be 8H plus 2H squared. Let me take that to a fresh screen. 82 is 8H plus 2H squared. Okay, so what do we do when we have, well, first off, let's divide through by 2, because notice they're all divisible by 2 just to simplify. That'll be 41 equals 4H plus H squared. Now, what's the game plan when you have X squared or H squared or whatever with an equal sign? Step 1, get a 0. Step 2, try to factor. And if it won't factor, or use the quadratic formula, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So first step, so whenever you see x squared or h squared, you got to really know this. Put this on your 3x5 card for the exam, is you got to get a 0 first. So I'm going to bring this 41 over this way, so that'll put a 0. I'm going to reorder these from highest power to lowest, h squared plus 4h or minus 41. So I got a 0. Next, when you can try to factor, that's not going to factor. I'm going to jump right into the quadratic formula. So h will equal negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So let's see what we got here. Negative b, this is a is 1, b is 4, c is negative 41. So negative b, negative 4 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. So what do we get? H is negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 16. Negative, positive, negative is going to be positive 164 all over 2. That's negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 180 all over 2. So I'm going to need to go to a fresh screen here. H is what? Negative 4 plus or minus the root of 180. Negative 4 plus or minus square root of 180 all over 2. Yeah. Okay, now you got to break down that 180. So that's 18 times 10, 2 times 9, 2 times 5, 3 times 3. So 2 3s, 2 2s. So out will come 6, right? Or maybe I would take it more slowly. If you break down that 180, it's 2 2s, 2 3s, and a 5. 2 2s, 2 3s, and a 5. And right, remember what square roots do? 2, and this is all over 2. 2 2s in sends a 2 right there. 2 3s in sends a 3 right there. And they times, these are gone, they multiply when they come out right in front of the root. They don't go past the plus or minus or anything like that. They multiply right in front of the root. And so we get h is minus 4 plus or minus 6, right? 2 times 3 is 6. Root 5 all over 2. And now just divide both those by. The 2 goes into the 4 2 times and into the 6 3 times. So we get h is minus 2 plus or minus 3 root 5. The 2 on the bottom is gone. It just divided into the 4 and into the 6. So is that good? Let me rewrite that a little more neatly. Negative 2. So it's negative 2 plus or minus 3 root 5. Those are the two answers for height. Now, one of them, so what those two answers are, h is negative 2 plus 3 root 5 or negative 2 minus 3 root 5. That one's impossible. Why? Because both parts are negative. You can't have a negative number and a negative number subtracting like that. It's just going to be a big old negative number. There's no way that the height in the real, remember, math goes beyond the real world. In the real world, height cannot be negative. This over here is a negative answer because both parts are negative. Forget it. Cross it out. That's not real. Height can't be negative. So this is the actual and only height, negative 2 plus 3 root 5. And now they also want the base, right? Don't they? Yeah, they want, and the base is, so how do we get the base? Well, back here, remember what the base equals? Base is 8 plus 2h right there. See this right here? 8 plus 2h is the base. So the base is 8 plus 2 times the height. So the base is 8 plus 2 times the height. And what's the height? Minus 2 plus, 3 root 5. This is a hard problem. Like that. And then distribute. Right? It's, what am I doing? Oh yeah, no, that's right. 8 plus 2 times the height. So I plugged in this height right there for height. It's right here. This is height right there. 8 plus 2 times height. So what do you get? The base is 8 minus 4, 2 times minus 2, plus 6 root 5. 8 minus 4 is 4, plus 6 root 5. So there's the base. Here's the height. We're done with that one. Okay, so here we are on number 3. Now this is a weird one. Remember what we do when we have x to the, let me move this over, when we have x to the 4th or x to the 2/3. Remember what you do is you let w equal the middle. In this case that's x to the 1/3. And w squared is the front, x to the 2/3, because that's twice as big. So step 1, so this middle becomes w, and this becomes w squared. So we have w squared plus 6w plus 8 equals 0. So step 1, you change to a different letter. These are the ones where we change to a different letter. You let w be the middle. W squared is the front, because the front, x to the 2/3, is twice as big as 1/3. So w squared, twice as big as regular w. Okay, now, step 2. Step 2, you factor, you try to factor. So can I factor that with the diamond thing? Maybe I'm running out of room here, but I better show the diamond, huh? What multiplies to be 8 and adds to be 6 if you do the diamond thing? What numbers multiply to be 8? What times what is 8? 2 and 4, huh? Both positive. Multiply to be 8 and add to be 6. So this is going to be W plus 2 and W plus 4 equals, it'll try to factor, each equals 0, and solve. So then each one equals 0, because if two things are multiplying, two things are timesing to equal 0, either one could be 0 to make that happen. So then W is minus 2 or minus 4. So I got my two answers for W. And then step 3, change back, W equals x to the 1/3. Remember in the beginning? Right here, x to the 1/3 was replaced by W. So we're done. All this middle work here is the W work, right? This is all W. Now we got to go back and say, okay, what was W all along? W was taking the place of the middle, which is x to the 1/3. And this W is x to the 1/3. So now we know x to the 1/3 is -2 or -4. So how do you turn that x to the 1/3 into, maybe I don't have enough room here, let me back this up. X to the 1/3 is -2. X to the 1/3 is -4. So now I want to turn this into regular x. Regular x. How do you turn a 1/3? Regular x means x to the 1, doesn't it? How do you turn a 1/3 power into 1? You raise it to the 3rd power on both sides. 3rd power, step 4, 3rd power, both sides. So 3rd power. 3 and 1/3 cancel to be x to the 1, or just regular x. Minus 2 to the 3rd. That's -2, -2, -2, which is -8. Same thing here. I'll do 3rd power. 3 cancels 1/3, be regular x. -4 times -4 times -4, what's that? -64. So there's the two answers, -8 and -64. Okay, number 4. Now, remember when we have greater than, less than, greater than, equal to, all that kind of stuff. What do? Step 1, get a 0, make it one fraction using the LCD. So I'm going to take this 1 and jump it over. So I get x plus 6 over x minus 4 minus 1. So step 1, get a 0 by jumping that 1 to the other side, becomes a -1. And now I've got to make these into one fraction using LCD. So make this 1 over 1, and to make them become one fraction, you've got to multiply top and bottom by x minus 4 to get a common denominator. What does that give us? X plus 6 minus 1 times x minus 4 over x minus 4. See, they both have x minus 4 as their denominator now, so it's the common denominator. Now distribute, so we get x plus 6 minus x plus 4 over x minus 4 less than 0. And that leads to x minus x cancel. 6 plus 4 is 10 over x minus 4 less than 0. Okay, let's take that to a fresh screen. So we're 10 over x minus 4 less than 0. So step 1, get a 0, make it one fraction. So we did that. Now for step number 2, what do? Numerator equals 0, denominator equals 0, and solve. So if you take the numerator, 10, bring it down here, the numerator equal to 0. That, there's nothing coming from that. There's no x there. If you take the denominator, so here's the numerator, here's the denominator, because that we can solve, move it over, x is 4. So x is 4. Step 3, we put our answers. Put our answers on the number line. So go to the number line, and I'm going to put x equals 4 on the number line. Okay, and final step, step 4, check x equals 0 for true or false. So I'm going to check now. Where's 0? 0's over here, right? Here's 0. I'm going to check x equals, or check it with what? With the original. X plus 6 over x minus 4 less than 1. X plus 6 over x minus 4 less than 1. So I'm going to take that 0 and plug it in there. Plug it in there. What do you get? 6 over minus 4 is less than 1. Is that true? That is, if you divide this on your calculator, you'll get negative 1.5 is less than 1. That's true. Negative numbers are less than positive numbers. Negative 1.5 is less than positive 1. So this is true. That means this section where we checked is a true section. Because 0, because this is the number 4 right here. So 0, 1, 2, this is 0, 1, 2, 3. They're all left of 4, 5, 6, 7, they're all to the right of 4. So with 0, what I checked when I plugged in 0 here and 0 here and just got 6 over minus 4, I got a true statement. Negative 1.5 is less than positive 1. That means this is a true section. This whole section is true, which means the other section is false. Remember, it switches true, false, true, or goes false, true, false. It turns out it was this way, true, false, true. We only have 2 sections, so it's just true, false. So the true section is this left section. So how do we give our final answer then? It goes from negative infinity up to 4. From negative infinity up. Remember, you do left edge, right edge. That's the answer. Those are all the x values. All the x values that are left of 4, less than 4. All the numbers less than 4, like 3, 2, 1, 0, negative 1, negative 2. All the numbers less than 4 make this original statement true. That's what we're saying. When we say all the numbers between negative infinity and 4 make the statement true. They're our answer. Okay, so they want me to graph this one on number 5. How do we graph? Remember, we always take the opposite of the number here. And what number's out here? Nothing, so 0. We take the same as that. So whenever they have parentheses squared for a graph, you start by taking opposite, comma, same. Opposite, same. That will be your vertex. So that's step 1. Your vertex is opposite, same. So your vertex, your center, that means your center. Your vertex is opposite of positive 3, negative 3. Same as 0. Since nothing is off to the right, it's just 0. Adding 0 doesn't change anything. So minus 3, comma 0, that's the vertex, the center. That means center. That's the center. So if I go to the graph now, back 3, up 0, right there. Oops, let me write it this way. Back 3, up 0. That's the center of the U-shape. Remember, x squared graphs are always a U-shape. This is going to be a U-shape, a parabola they call it. All right, so how do you find another dot now? You need one more dot to make the U-shape. Well, basically, it's all about what's in front here. Oops, I'm kind of scribbling that. What's in front there? A negative sign, which means negative 1. There's no number in front, so that means negative 1. Right? Why do I make that a 1? I made this guy a 0. Well, because adding 0 changes nothing, and timesing by 1 changes nothing. So the number in the front, if that's missing, since it's a multiplied spot, you're multiplying by 1. because multiplying by 1 changes nothing, and adding 0 changes nothing. Make this 1 over 1 because we need a slope. Rise over run. That's like a slope, isn't it? So from this dot here, you go down 1, over 1, right there. I went down 1, over 1. Does that make sense? Rise over run like a slope. Down 1, over 1. Down 1, over 1. So right there, so that means there's your U-shape. Your parabola, it's going down, huh? When there's a negative in the front, the U-shape always goes down. So there's the parabola. You just use that fraction in the front as a slope, down 1 over 1. So you find the vertex first off with opposite same. So you find your vertex, the center of the U-shape, and then you use the fraction in the front, rise over run, to find your second dot. Connect the two dots, you got your U-shape. Last thing they want is they want this dotted line in the middle to be graphed also. You've got to put that on the graph. And the equation for that, that's the axis of symmetry. And its equation is x equals, where is it hitting right here? -1, -2, -3, which is the x value of the center. So x equals -3 is the axis of symmetry, going through the middle of the parabola. There we go. Okay, so same thing. How do we get the vertex? The vertex, the center, the center vertex is always opposite same. So opposite of this number, same as that number. So the vertex, the center of the U-shape, will be opposite of -4, +4, same as the other number, +5. So there is the center of the U-shape. So right for 1, 2, 3, 4, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right there, over 4, up 5. There's the center of the U-shape. Now, we need one other dot to graph it. How do you find second point? We have the center, we need a second point. We always use the slope, huh? What's the slope in the very front? -3 over 1. Rise over run. So go down 3, 1, 2, 3, over 1. Does that make sense how I'm finding that second point? Down 3 over 1. Rise over run. You just take whatever number's in the front of the parentheses, make it a fraction by putting it over 1, and then treat it like a slope. Rise over run. Down 3 over 1. So now you know this parabola, this U-shape, is going down, isn't it? Like that. It's going down because of the negative in the front. Rise is negative, and negative rise is down. Last thing they want is they want you to graph this dotted line right through the middle of the U-shape as a dotted line. And what's the equation of that? They call that the axis of symmetry, or the line of symmetry. That's always x equals whatever the x-coordinate is, 4, every time. See how it hits right through 4? It's always going to be the x-coordinate of the center, because it goes right through the center. X equals 4. Okay, so now for this one, we're going to find, this is no parentheses squared. See how it does not have a parentheses squared? See how the last problem, like number 6, see these parentheses squared, number 6, number 5, sorry, I'm having a little trouble here. Parentheses squared. So those had parentheses squared. This one has no parentheses squared. Well, then how do you find the vertex, the center vertex, when it doesn't have parentheses squared? Well, the way you find it is x equals -b over 2a. It's like the quadratic formula. It's kind of like the outside of the quadratic formula. So you got to do that first off. So x is -b over 2a. Now what's that? Well, a, it's like a is 1, b is -4. So -b is -4. Let me change the color to make that more clear. So negative b, and b is negative 4 all over 2 times a. And what's a? 1. Do y'all see that? So there is b, negative 4. It's negative, negative b. So it actually becomes positive 4 over 2. So x is positive 2, isn't it? 4 divided by 2. Okay, and then plug in to find y. So there's how you find x is negative b over 2a. Plug in to find y. So I'm going to take that equation, because remember, f of x, you could just get rid of f of x and say, hey, f of x, that's really y. Remember function letters, f of x, g of x, h of x? Those are just y. So just make that y. That's by common agreement in the math science world. Functions are just y. So to find y, then, we go y equals x squared minus 4x plus 14. Grab that 2, plug it in, plug it in. So y is 2 squared minus 4 times 2 plus 14. Y is 4 minus 8 plus 14. What is that, 10? So y is 10. So that means the vertex, the center vertex is 2, 10, x, y, right? There's the y, there's the x. So when we go to the graph now, that means 210 is going to be the center. So let's go to a fresh screen. The center vertex is 210. So over 1, 2, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right there. It is over 2 up 10. There's the center of the U-shape. This is going to be another U-shape, another parabola. The center's 210. So we have to find the center in a different way when there's no parentheses squared. So you see in the two different methods, when you have parentheses squared, when you have parentheses squared, you do the opposite same. But on this one, we don't have parentheses squared. So we need to do the x is negative b over 2a, and then plug in to find y. So now we've got it. We've got the center. Now how do you find the second point? Same way you did before. The second point comes from the slope. What's the slope? Right in the front. Right here. Put it over 1. 1 over 1. Rise. It's rise over run. 1 over 1. 1 over 1. So that's rise over run. Both are positive. So from here you go up 1 over 1. Up 1 over 1. There's your second point. Just look right in the front. Just like with the parenthesis problems, look right in the front. The number right in the front, put it over 1. Make it a fraction. That's your slope. Rise over run. So go up 1 over 1. There's my second dot. Now connect the dots. There we go. There's the U-shape, the parabola. It's going up like that. We found the center. Went up 1 over 1, found another dot. So again, when the very front is positive, remember this original equation before I got all the mess in here, was y equals positive x squared, right? Y equals x squared, it was positive. So when the front is positive, the U-shape is going up. And that positive is 1 over 1. There's no number there, so it's 1 over 1. Rise over run, right? There it is. So that's my rise over my run, my slope. Okay, what else do they want now? They want the vertex, the center, we got that. The parabola opens upward, we got that. Now they wants the X-intercepts. So let's look back at the picture. Here's the x-axis. Where do you think this graph, this red U-shaped graph, is going to hit this x-axis? It's not, is it? This graph is going up, 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 up. It's not going to come down and hit this x-axis. There are no x-intercepts on this one. So, no x-intercept. Finally, find the y-intercepts. How do we find y-intercepts? For intercepts, you set the opposite letter to 0. So to find a y-intercept, you make x 0 in the original equation. Let's go back to the original. Here it is, or I'll just get it right here. So y equals x squared minus 4x plus 14. 4x plus 14. And then you just plug in 0, plug in 0. So you're going to get 0 squared minus 4 times 0 plus 14. Y is just going to be 14. These are just gone. Y is just 14. So the y-intercept is 14. What that means, I didn't do my graph very well, but this is 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's really supposed to go through right there at 14. I just didn't graph it very well. It's supposed to go bonk right through that point. It's supposed to hit the y-axis at up 14. That's what that means. That's on the coordinates at that point. They probably want you to say it this way: over 0 up 14, right? Because that dot right there is over 0 up 14, right? Because x was 0 led to y 14. X 0, y 14. That's what they want. The y-intercepts are, yeah, they want ordered pair. So 0, 14, there we go. There it is. All right, so here we are on number 8. They give me this graph. Let me bring it over here. I'm just going to make that y in the front because that's what it is. Minus 3x squared minus 12x. Okay, so again, here we have no parentheses squared. So the way we find the vertex, the center vertex, is x is negative b over 2a, and then plug in to find y. So x is negative b over 2a, plug in to find y. So x is negative b over 2a. This is a, negative 3, b, negative 12. So negative b over 2 times a, negative b. b is negative 12, a is negative 3. So what are we going to get from all that? 2 negatives on the top make positive 12. On the bottom, negative 6. So x is negative 2. So there's the x value. Now we plug in to find y. So go back to the original equation, which is y equals minus 3x squared minus 12x. Do I have that right? Yeah, minus 12x. Plug in x is minus 2 there and there. So we get minus 3 times minus 2 squared minus 12 times minus 2 minus 3 times 4 plus 24 minus 12 plus 24. Y is 12. So the center vertex is minus 2, 12, x, y, x, y, minus 2, 12. So we have the center. So that's the center. Let's go to a fresh screen and graph that thing. So I'm going to graph it. Back to up 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Back to up 12 right there. Back to up 12. There's the center of the U shape. Back to up 12. Now, how do we find the second point? So we have the center. Now we just need one more point, and then we'll connect the 2 points to make our graph. How do we find the second point? Well, go back to the equation and look at the slope right in the front. Let me bring the equation over. It was y equals minus 3x squared minus 12x. So to get the second point, you put this over 1, and it's slope, right? It's the number right in the front. Slope, rise over run. That negative 3 right in the front means this U shape's going down. So it's going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, over 1. There it is. Connect the dots. So down 3. I don't know where it's gonna hit. Right, so here, let me just going to go like that. Like that. All right, so there's the U shape, the parabola, right? Down 3 over 1. Down 3 over 1 from the first point to the second point. Now, the next thing they want is they want us to find the X-intercepts. You can see them right here and here. I don't know if I've drawn them exactly correct, but there they are. That's where the graph hits the x-axis. How do you find x-intercepts? You set y to 0. You getting the hang of this? Whenever, in a minute, we're going to do y-intercepts, and then we'll set x to 0. So whenever you do intercepts, you set, let me write it here, intercepts. You set opposite letter equal to 0. Opposite letter, whenever you do intercepts, you set the opposite letter equal to 0. So to find x-intercepts, you make y 0. So bring the equation down here. Y equals minus 3x squared minus 12x. And make that y become 0. Now, how do you solve that equation? You factor. Take out minus 3x. That's the GCF. Leaves x plus 4. Minus 3x times x is minus 3x squared. Minus 3x times 4 is minus 12x. See how that's right? I took out what's in common, the GCF, minus 3x. And then each part gets its own 0, right? Because if two things are timesing each other to equal 0, either one could be 0 to make that happen. Finish solving. Divide by minus 3. X is 0 over minus 3 is just 0. Move the 4 over. Negative 4. So this is at 0, and this must be at negative 4. So really they want the coordinates of those points, not just minus 4 and 0. They want you to say minus 4 up 0 and 0, 0, right? Because both of those x values go with y values that are 0. Why? Because y equals 0 led to x 0 and to x negative 4. So they both go with a y 0. Coordinates to this point is 0, 0. Coordinates to this point is back 4, 0. So they want you to list these two with a comma. That's a comma in between them. Those are the two x-intercepts. Finally, last thing up here, y-intercept. What do? Opposite letter 0. So set x to 0, right? To find an x-intercept, you make y 0. To find a y-intercept, you make x 0. So let's take the equation one last time. Y equals minus 3x squared minus 12x. Plug in 0, plug in 0. Y equals minus 3 times 0 squared minus 12 times 0. Y is 0. So that is the point 0, 0 right there. The point we already have for the x-intercept. That point is both the x-intercept and the y-intercept. It's the origin. It hits both. The graph, the U-shape, hits both axis lines, both grid lines right there. 0, 0 is a y-intercept. 0, 0 is also an x-intercept along with minus 4, 0. There we go. Okay, so number 9, they have f of x and g of x, and they want me to find this. Now, what does that little weird circle thing in the middle mean? It means f of g of x. So I keep the order the same. F coming first, then g, then x. Same order, but it's one function inside of the other. Did you get it? One function inside the other. So that means I've got to take this function g, and I've got to plug it right in there to f, right? G goes into f. Functions are always right to left, so g is going into f. So what's that going to be? All of g plugs in right here. So that's going to be 2, and then all of g, and then minus 7. You get it? See how I just put all of this right there? And then you just simplify it. So distribute 2x plus 16 minus 7. 2x, getting a little scribbly here. What is that? Plus 9? 2x plus 9. So there's the first answer. Now in part 2, they want me to go the other way. They want me to find g of f of x. Now what does that mean? Again, keep the order the same. G first, then f. G first, then f. They want g of f of x. So this means now, remember it's always right to left, I'm going to put f into g. It's always right to left. Just like here was g into f, now I'm going f into g. So that means, go back here. Let me rewrite it maybe right here. F of x is 2x minus 7. And g of x is x plus 8. So I'm going to take all of f, right, all of f, and put it into g. Put it in right there for g. So this will equal 2x minus 7 plus 8. See how I put right here all of f plus 8. I put all of f into g. And then work it out. What is that? 2x minus 7 plus 8 plus 1. There's the answer. So do you see how that worked? I just put all of f, right? This is all of f into g, right to left, f into g, all of f plugged into the x slot. That's where you plug in things to functions, into the x slot of g. So it's all of f here, 2x minus 7, and then plus 8. 2x minus 7 plus 8 simplifies to be 2x plus 1. Okay, so here we are on number 10, asking me to find the inverse. How do you find an inverse? What are the steps for finding an inverse? Step 1, invert or switch x and y. So where's y? Well, this is really y out here. The function, remember the function, I'll just get rid of f of x. That's really y. So function letters are really y. That's by common agreement in the math science world. Switch right there, x and y. So this becomes x out here and y in there. Everything else stays put. The 8, the 4, the 7. They stay right where they're at. You just switch, invert x and y. That's what an inverse function is an inverting of x and y. And then step 2, solve for y. Get y alone. So put this over 1, diagonal, diagonal, cross multiply. X times 4y plus 7 is 1 times 8. Distribute. 4xy plus 7x. 1 times 8 is 8. We're trying to get y alone. Here's y right here. Y is saying, I want to be alone. So jump this 7x to the other side. And you get 4xy is 8 minus 7x, right? When that positive 7x jumps to the other side, becomes a negative 7x. Things switch signs when they jump to the other side. Last step to get y alone, y divide by 4x. Boom, boom. There it is, the inverse function. We got y alone.